Welcome in. We're going to be talking about helmets. That's your intro. Boom! Forgot to load it. If I was any good at videography, I'd actually input the actual Jaws theme song into that. But instead, you get my piece of shit rendition. Hiya! You mind if I sneak in here with you? You might be asking yourself, why is he shooting a 22? Well, ammo's expensive, and this is a helmet review. See those videos where people are just training really hard, they put it on their social media, and then their clothes come out completely clean? I've been here for like 10 minutes and I'm already covered in dust and dirt. Maybe I just train where it's dirtier or something, but maybe I'm just pigpen. Now you might be wondering what's the deal with the dinky revolver. Well, I was buying ammo yesterday. I saw it in the gun case and I had to have it. You might be wondering why it looks ugly already. Well, while fumbling with it, a screw came out and it's gone now. So this is gonna be our first shots with it. I figured we could do it together. If I die, well, at least I made it on Live Leak, right? All right. Ooh. It didn't work. Promising start. Hey, and it didn't blow up.
Hello, welcome in. Today, we're going to be talking about bump helmets, specifically for night vision setups. So the first question is, do I need a bump helmet? Well, ask yourself, do you have night vision? If you don't, I really don't see a need to be putting a bump helmet onto your arsenal, onto your list of things. Helmets, absolutely. A ballistic helmet, if you feel like you're going to be going to harm's way and you want something to have a little bit of protection, then yes, a ballistic helmet, way to go. If you're just wanting to buy a bump helmet, what's your need for it? Really, the only need that I can see for having a bump helmet is putting night vision onto your dome. As far as putting night vision on, there's a couple different options you can do. Personally, I've used a few, not everything, but the helmet has been the most ideal for attaching it to my head for both comfort, stability, and long-term use. I've used a Crye Nightcap. This was the first thing that I used for a while, which is about $80, $90. It's pretty much just a beanie made of mesh with a mount on the top with some Velcro and some other adjustments throughout it. This is a great option for something that's low-key, compact. If you don't want to be taking a helmet around with you and you want something that's a little bit more low profile and slim, then these are great. However, they're not great for extended periods of time. They're not comfortable. You start to feel them pressure points just because it doesn't handle the weight as much. There is not as much padding and there's not a retention system that's holding it onto your head, okay? I've also utilized a few skull crushers. Skull crushers are a little bit better than this, but they've got their own problems of their own. Their pressure points are a little bit around the head, and I didn't like that as much either. And so that's when I decided to get a bump helmet. The second I started utilizing a bump helmet, I was way more comfortable. I was able to use my night vision for extended periods of time without levels of discomfort. With the helmet, I can pop it off every now and again, get some air through my hair, and then put it right back on and I'm good to go. However, with something like this Crye Nightcap, I had it on my head and at about the 2 or 3 hour mark, I was really starting to feel the pressure and the weight of this night vision on my head. I had a good pressure point right here and it would just give me a headache. I also feel like it wasn't as balanced, so when I'd move my head, it would move about, and the only way to avoid that would be to have the chin strap just really cinched down and everything really tight, and then that just compressed my head and then compounded my problem. So I realized that I needed something a little bit more if I was going to be utilizing it for extended periods of time. And so that's why I ended up getting a bump helmet. If your mileage is the same, you might want to consider getting a bump helmet as well.
Do you think that they've noticed my 37mm grenades and the stunning lack of a launcher on my gun? I won't tell if you won't tell.
As far as brands go and what helmets to get, I think the main ones that most people use, including myself, is going to be either the OpsCore or the Team Wendy, with I think Team Wendy being the most popular option as far as bump helmets are concerned. When purchasing a bump helmet, it's really important to buy around the ecosystem that you want, not just because you want this helmet. Because you could want this helmet's great, but it doesn't support your hearing protection, or it doesn't have the mounts that go along the head that support a ear pro mounting system that you want to use, or maybe that is your hearing protection already, and so you will no longer be able to put those onto your new helmet, and you'll have to buy something completely different. So be sure to buy it not only for the helmet, but also for the ecosystem that it supports. One example with these Team Wendy's is with the current rail system that I have, I don't have the arc rails that go along the back. And so that means is if I wanted to have the hearing protection that attached to the back of the helmet and clamps on, I wouldn't be able to do that. I didn't want that to begin with. I'd heard a lot of different things that a vertically mounted hearing protection adds more stability to the helmet. I haven't tested it out, so I could be wrong, or it could just be it's a negligible difference, but that's something that I really wanted. The next thing is the rail system here doesn't allow for the addition of any extra accessories. What do I mean by that? I've got these NVG bungees that attach here, and so I was buying this helmet for night vision, so that's the rail system that I bought on there. I was looking around and I saw ones that had Picatinny mounts kind of up here near the front of the rails. I like those, but the way they're advertising, they made it seem like it was only for the face shields that would attach onto their helmets. However, it's a piece of Picatinny rail. You can attach anything you want onto it. I would have preferred to attach a light on that way instead of having it Velcro to the side. I'd feel a lot more secure about it, and it'd be less likely just to get knocked off. It's also really annoying when you throw it into your bag and then your light gets moved around just a little bit. And so you put it on and you go to turn on your task light, and then boom, it's sending a beam up into space. And so you have to grab it and pull it off and reattach it and find the perfect spot. However, if it would just attach to Picatinny, it's going to be a lot more rock solid and less likely to get moved around. So that's a problem that I had. I can replace this rail. I think it's another like $40 in the future. That's absolutely something that I'm going to do, because I would like to have a different task light, and I would like to have something that just is a little bit more steady and solid on my helmet, because I don't want trees to be pulling everything off. Furthermore, on brands is be sure to shop the sales. Bump helmets range anywhere from $300 to $500, with some really lightweight carbon builds being a little bit more approaching the $800 to $900 to $1,000, depending on what you get. Some are really pricey, but some are an affordable option. Shop the sales. The two main sales that happen every single year with everything that I've seen is going to be the 4th of July sale, as well as a Black Friday sale. Everyone's familiar with Black Friday, but most people forget about 4th of July sales. I bought my Team Wendy on a 4th of July sale, and everything was about 40% off. That's pretty stellar in my mind. So instead of spending close to $400 to get my setup, it was a little bit closer to like the $250 mark, and that saved me a lot of money, and that led me add on some of the accessories that I needed to get for the same price as the helmet would have been just buying the helmet alone. So what's great about that is between Black Friday and the 4th of July, there's like 3 or 4 months. So no matter what time it is during the year, if you wait a month or two, you're probably going to hit one of those major sales and save a lot of money. So I strongly encourage for that. Sign up for their newsletters. I found out mine because they were advertising it on Facebook, and I saw that. I'm like, wow, now's the perfect time to buy a helmet. I bought it.
When I'm done loading this thing, there's gonna be hell to pay. You've used your last ha.
Next is going to be retention systems. I feel like retention systems are going to be what makes or breaks the comfort level on your helmet. Do you like wearing your helmet, or is your helmet uncomfortable? I'd heard good things about the Team Wendy BOA system, and so that's really what I gravitated towards. Everybody online, everybody talked about Team Wendy, Team Wendy, Team Wendy. And so that's what I ended up getting. I bought the Team Wendy because I didn't want to buy a different helmet, and then buy a $160 BOA retention system, the Team Wendy retention system, and put it in another helmet. So I figured I would go ahead and buy that. That way I don't have a retention system that I end up paying for, pulling out, and then never using. So that was my ultimate decision as to buying a Team Wendy. And I don't regret that decision. I could have got another helmet, had a kind of different ecosystem, but the main point, I feel like the heart of the helmet is the retention system as far as comfort is concerned. Other companies have other retention systems, they slide and things like that, and I'd utilized before, but it just really wasn't as comfortable and it wasn't as precise. Now, they always say, it's like someone will come in and talk, and it's like, well, you only have to set it once. That's not true. That's not true, because even if you just wear a balaclava underneath your helmet is going to sit a little bit differently, and the retention system is either going to be tighter or need to be looser because of what you're wearing. Maybe you've got a long hair and then you get a haircut. Now you got to change your night vision setup, change your helmet setup, and then pull on those tabs and tighten it down. With the Team Wendy BOA system, no matter what, let's try to get this in frame here, so sorry. So you've got this dial here. You pull it out and that'll loosen it, and then you click it in and then tighten it. And this has a BOA system that goes completely around the helmet. So you put it on, making sure it's fully open, tighten it down, and then twist. That is going to be the most secure your helmet is going to be on your head. I'm a firm believer of that. I don't think anything, unless something else is invented, is going to convince me otherwise. Something that's also really nice about it is if you start feeling pressure points on your head's getting a little bit uncomfortable, and say you're just hiking, you're going through the woods, it's flat ground, you don't need it as tight, you can just reach back, pull up the tab, and it'll just loosen just a little bit. And then that'll give your head some relief. You'll keep on going. All right, now I got to start climbing again. I'm going up a hill. I'm going to go ahead and push that in and give it a 3/4 turn. And now it's tight to your head and ready to go. Those micro adjustments make it so much more comfortable and enables you to wear it longer without having any sort of pressure points or hot spots or just general pain. It also makes sure that it's not slopping about, because if you put on your helmet and you've got a balaclava on, it sits a little bit higher or it's a little bit looser because you just got a haircut, and then your night vision starts to cant and swerve just a little bit, then your night vision is going to go like this, and it's a lot harder to see through them because it's only a 40-degree field of view. So anytime it's a little off center from your eye, you're going to be losing a lot of vision. And then with that, it's also going to have the discomfort, because once all that weight is forward on your eyes and it starts moving about, you are going to be subject to that weight moving. A lot of people just think that putting on a night vision, it's easy, but the problem is it's a lot of weight. And so once that starts moving, it compounds all those problems, and you really start to feel it in your neck as well as different parts of your head, depending on where it's going. And also just making sure that it's nice, rock solid in front of your eyes is going to make sure as you're climbing or you're moving or if you're running, that you can still see and you can still operate normally. I've seen a lot of guys where they run really weird because they're trying to keep their head perfectly still because their night vision and their helmet is bouncing about. You don't want to be doing that. You want to be focusing on whatever the task is, and you don't want that just falling off your head. The next part of retention systems is going to be the padding system that's built into the helmets. For me, I must have the most basic mannequin head, because the way the pads came from Team Wendy, it was perfect onto my head. I've used this setup for about, I think, close to 2 years now, and I've had zero problems as far as the comfort level of the padding on the inside. Your mileage may vary, your head might be a slightly different shape, and so you'll want to adjust those. If you feel like the pads are still uncomfortable, then I know Hardhead Veterans makes what they call a lattice system. And I've never utilized them myself, but I've seen online and a lot of people talk about them. That was a big game changer for them when they were dealing with the discomfort of wearing a helmet. The problem with that is those pads are close to, I think, $200. You could probably get a sale and save some money, of course. But if you were to go out and buy those right now, it's $220, $200. That's a lot of money to be throwing onto your helmet. But if you're going to be wearing a helmet every day, or you're going to be utilizing a lot, then that might be an upgrade that you want, especially if you're going to be in a hot environment. Helmets get hot. Bump helmets have the advantage of having some ventilation holes because they don't have to be ballistic, but that doesn't mean they don't get hot still. I was utilizing it a couple days ago in the daytime, and I was running around and it was only 70 degrees outside, and it truly was getting hot. So if you're in a very warm environment, then just the lattice system alone is more of a mesh instead of just foam and padding. So it's going to let it breathe a lot more, and it's going to be a little bit more custom to your head to have a little less of those hot spots. And so if you're going to be doing that, you've got the hot weather and that's a problem that you have, that might be an investment you want to look into, because it'll increase the longevity of your helmet wearing capabilities.
Revolvers. Not practical, very fun.
Next is counterweights. Do you need a counterweight? Yes, unless you've got something ultra lightweight and you're running it with a battery pack, you're going to need a counterweight of some kind. You'll always see that you want to avoid as much weight onto your helmet as possible. Absolutely, it's true. But taking it from the counterweight is not an area where you want to be saving weight. The problem is you've got all that weight going forward, and so it's going to pull your helmet like this. So even with the Team Wendy retention system, you're going to have a lot of weight leveraged out here, canting forward. That's going to adjust the fit of your helmet in a not advantageous way, and you're going to have the pressure points. It's not going to be set in front of your eyes, and it's going to add on pressure onto your forehead, as well as just moving back and forth like this, because it isn't balanced, right? So it's just bouncing back and forth. Adding on the weight of a counterweight is going to increase your comfort. It's not going to pull away from it. So don't skimp on the counterweights. Your setup may be a little bit different, but I think for 95% of people, they need the counterweight. They need to have that. The counterweight that I went with was a knockoff Mohawk. Why'd I get a knockoff? I didn't want to spend $120 on a Mohawk when it truly is just a little bit of Velcro and some Cordura. It's not a high wear item, and so I was pretty confident with putting it on and just calling it good. I've used it for a year and a half now, and I still haven't had any problems. It hasn't fallen off because it's just Velcro. It's not anything proprietary. I understand buying from China is not the greatest thing, but you buying a night vision counterweight is not going to be what stops the imports of goods. Even if you bought all your tactical gear or knockoffs from Amazon from some Chinese company, there's so much Chinese shit coming to the US, you're not going to be the one to stop it. That's going to be your decision that you make. So if that's what you want to do, it's up to you. For me, I was fine with doing that and saving about $120. So I did that, and so far it's been fine. I wanted the Mohawk because I wanted this extra bungee that went up to the top. So if I was attaching some sort of strobe to my helmet, I would have a little bit more retention other than just Velcro. I go through a lot of woods when I'm out using my night vision. I'm coyote hunting or something of the sort. And so going through trees, sometimes it'll snag on a branch, and I really want to avoid stuff getting ripped off because I don't want to just dump my strobe off in the middle of nowhere. And then now I'm out $150, $200 for my strobe. Some of the strobes that people get are like Hell Stars and things like that. Find the one you want. They're pretty much all the same. I like the ones that also just have built-in lights. So if you're just doing some day stuff with some other people and you need to utilize it, it's there. Do your shopping. It's just a strobe. Don't get hung up about it because most of the time you're not going to be using a strobe, with the exception of if you're going to like a night vision class or something like that. If you go down range, you usually have to be turning on your strobe. But the thing is, like, if you're out with your buddies and they've got their strobes on and you're just going through the woods or coyote hunting, it's always flashing so loud that your night vision auto gates, so it blacks out and then comes back in, blacks out and it comes back in. So you're not walking around with your strobes on in a normal type of situation. It's a little bit more administrative than anything else. But that's what I went for my counterweight system, and I do feel like it's worked really, really well, and I've had zero problems. If you've got a little bit more of a lightweight build and you need to have an extended battery life, or you're utilizing it in the wintertime a lot, adding in a battery pack onto the back is going to add on the weight and also give you a lot more capability in the form of battery life. What do I mean by in the winter? In the winter, your batteries die a lot faster. That's just the way it goes. Batteries don't last as long in the cold. So if you're in cold weather a lot, definitely get a battery pack. That way you're not swapping out batteries on your night vision, because when you have gloves on, that's only going to exacerbate the problem. Get the battery pack, put it on, attach it to your night vision, and you're going to be set all night long, guaranteed. Now, if you need extra weight to that, your battery pack's lightweight and your night vision is a little bit heavy. These are NVGs or ruggedized, so they're a little bit heavier. I would absolutely have to continue running a little bit more weights. What I did is I just took a little bit of Velcro and then I put it onto the counterweights themselves, the pieces of lead or metal, whatever it might be. I hope it's not lead. Either way, and then you can just put another piece of Velcro onto the back of the battery pack, and then you can add on a piece here and there based on what you need. When I was first going out and utilizing them, I had a couple in my pocket and I would just Velcro them to the back and then see what worked for me, because in my house, oh yeah, it felt fine, but then I'd be out hunting and then I realized that the balance wasn't right, and so it needed a little bit more fine tuning. But the rest of it is just going to have some extra batteries in the back because I don't have a battery pack. That's definitely something that I want to upgrade to later on, but so far I've done well with these, and as long as I put in a fresh lithium-ion battery before the start of each night in the cold, I'm fine because I'm only out there for 4 or 5 hours. But once you get closer to the 7 hours, depending on the batteries, you're more likely to have them die.
Are those only 22 rounds in your gun, Reaver? I don't know, Mr. ATF agent. Is that only a flannel shirt you're wearing?
Hearing protection is going to be one of those things that I feel like adds a lot of value to your helmet due to the stability it offers. As we talked about a little bit earlier, I was told that the vertically mounted hearing protection added a lot more stability than the ones that mount in the back rails. I haven't been able to test that, but so far, adding on those that hearing protection onto my helmet and clamping it down does add stability, and it makes it a lot more comfortable, just because it also stops your side-to-side movement as well as the retention system and the counterweights to stop the front to back. So as much movement as you can eliminate as possible is going to pay dividends when you're out using it in the field. Originally, I just decided I would wear my hearing protection underneath my helmet. I know a lot of guys do that. I know a lot of people have setups like that, and it also saves them from having to buy a second set of hearing protection because they're not always going to be utilizing their helmet. When they go out to the range, they still want a set of hearing protection, especially if they have a good pair of Peltors or something like of the sort, maybe some Swordens that they want to use. My problem with that is underneath, I just couldn't get it set up right, and then the band of the hearing protection added a pressure point to my head, and then by about an hour or two, it was really uncomfortable. I also couldn't get the fit right, and then even with the BOA system, it was just causing me all sorts of problems. So I decided I need to get a set that goes onto my helmet. And so I went out shopping. I didn't want to spend an extra $500, but there wasn't a lot of mount options for the Team Wendy helmet that wasn't some set of Comtacs. So what I did is I ended up getting a Repro, a knockoff, just like I did with the Mohawk, and it ended up working really, really well. Now, a lot of people will say, once again, I'm buying things from China. I get that. We've already gone over that. If that's not something you want to do, go a different route. That's fine. I'm trying to present you with options. That's something that I did, and it works fine. Now, the next follow-up is like, well, your hearing isn't something to be messed with. I absolutely agree with you on that. I didn't notice a difference as far as noise reduction between my $500 set of Comtacs and my $150 knockoffs. What I did notice was the overall sound profile. The sound profile and directional hearing, way better with the Comtacs. No one can argue that. They're great. However, with these, they're not bad. It's fine. I could hear people talking, and then after like 20 minutes or so, I really didn't notice a difference. But if you put them on back to back, you will notice that difference. However, for an extra $400, I didn't really think it was worth it, and I didn't have that kind of money to throw around right around then. So what I did is I put the knockoffs on and I put it on my helmets. However, I still use the name brand Team Wendy Peltor mounts. These are only about $40, I believe. And this is going to be important because this is what holds it onto your head. You don't want these things breaking. And with a lot of these knockoffs or airsoft versions, that's going to be the point that fails. So I got the main ones. And like I said, saving $20 on a $40 per purchase for something as important as this, I don't think is that critical. Okay. Now people will say, is it does it block as much noise? Like I said before, I feel like the noise cancellation was about the same. It sounded slightly different, but I wasn't like my ears weren't being like aggravated because of the noise that was coming through. Now people are concerned about it. It's Chinese, things like that. Now some people will use like Howard lights. I think these are like the go-to budget hearing protection, and these are great, but the thing is they're $40. And so are we saying that these are better just because they're not a knockoff of anything, because they don't need to be knocked off because they're $40? They don't need to save money there, as opposed to a $150 set of knockoff Comtacs. I don't know. Maybe these might be made in China too. However, are they going to be as good as $120 ones? I don't know as far as the sound profiles, how many decibels they block out. That's for the nerd to decide. But for me, it's been pretty good.
Some things that people have said about the mounts for the Peltors on these Team Wendy's is they don't seem to clamp down really good on your head. And quite honestly, I agree. I wish there was a little bit more pressure. With really loud guns, it feels like it's coming through a little bit. So maybe go a different route or do something that can increase the pressure. Maybe there's something online that I haven't found yet. I'll look it up. Hopefully I've looked it up before I make this video. I don't know.
All right, next on the list is going to be the NVG mount. This is going to be the mount that interfaces between your night vision and your helmets. So this mount here. When I first bought it, I was really worried about spending so much money on a G24 mount, which is the gold standard. It's usually the one that everybody goes for. G24s are close to, I think, about $400 or $500 the last time I checked. That's a lot of money for a piece of metal that just clamps your night vision to your helmet. I understand it's very critical, it's very important. There's a lot of fine-tune adjustments, but I was testing things and I wanted to know. It's like, well, let's try a knockoff. And so I got a really, really cheap knockoff. This was like $40, and it's all plastic, it's made of polymer. The lockup wasn't good, the adjustment was horrible. The second I touched this, I knew like this wouldn't work. I tried, and like it would literally just like break out of the helmet mounts because the plastic didn't have as much lockup as needed. So this, trash. Don't use it, get rid of it. So next, like, well, maybe I can get a metal one. So I ended up spending $120 on a metal one of a reproduction of a G24. I utilized it and it was good. What I did notice was there was a little bit of slop to it, a little bit of wiggle, and it wasn't like a nice firm lockup with my night vision. It was a perfect lockup with the helmets, which I was very concerned about, but there was a little bit of slop. Doing a little bit of research, both before and after I made this purchase, was the fact that G24s, just regular ones, have a lot of slop to them already. They wiggle, they move, people have to shim them or they tape them. They do a bunch of different things in order to remove some of those micro movements that are in it. You might not think it's a big deal, but when you're going up a hill and it's moving, or you're going down and it's moving and it's going below your eye level, because there's that much movement to it, it's a little bit disappointing because you spent so much money on something that isn't that good. So with this one, I really didn't notice any problems. The one issue that I ran into was the fact of, after like two or three nights of use, one of the screws that I adjusted the cant of the goggles would get loose. And so whenever that would happen, it would start drooping. And so I'd have to twist it up, coming back in, and then it would continue drooping, and it would continue drooping. What I did was I removed the screw, put a little Loctite on it, and then put it back in. And for the most part, that did solve the problem. It would still happen every now and again, but really it removed that problem. The next thing is I learned some stability tricks, both taping, shimming, rubber bands, and we'll talk about that in a moment, in order to stabilize just the G24 mount and remove all the slop after you've already set the adjustments. And it was really great. The only thing that I didn't test was the breakaway feature on it. The G24 compared to the G22 from Wilcox has a breakaway feature. What that means is, why would I want that, right? Is if your night vision is, say, stored upwards, right? And you're in the back of a truck, you're hunting coyotes, doing anything, whatever, and these catch on a branch, the breakaway feature will break instead of breaking your neck. You want that. Trust me, you want that. So very critical. If you don't need that, then you don't have to buy it. But that was the one thing that I didn't test. I'm sure that the Wilcox, the name brand, works fine. I don't know as far as the knockoff version is concerned. That's for someone else to test. I'm sure there's some sort of test out there. I haven't seen it. I haven't watched it. That was a concern for me, and that is why I ended up upgrading to the name brand later on. About a year after I had it, I upgraded to the name brand Wilcox, and I was ultra disappointed because I did not feel a difference in both build quality as well as the amount of slop that's in the mount. They felt pretty much identical. It was just slightly different things in other places. The only difference that I felt was the anodization on the metal. Like the Wilcox, the name brand one, did feel like it was a little bit more robust. Just from the paint felt thicker, the anodization felt thicker. That's it. That's the only difference that I felt. Like I said, that was very disappointing, right? Because I spent so much money. I was hoping to get X amount of performance out of it, and I really didn't get anything. But I was worried about my neck. I'd rode in the back of a car with my night vision, and for some reason, I was really, really paranoid about that. Like it was just going through my head, and I feel like I was going to be in a Final Destination movie because I cheaped out there. There's no trees in sight. I was in a desert, but I was worried about that tree coming out of nowhere and just breaking my neck. So next day, I went out and bought it, but I didn't notice a difference. Very, very disappointing. Your mileage may vary. There's a lot of different repros. I'm sure that there's some that are really good. I think I ended up getting a good one. I just got mine from Amazon, actually, and other people who have had some bad luck with them. That's for you to decide. If you don't like it, get it from Amazon or something like that. Just send it back. If you want to try again, you can.
Why is he wearing NVGs during the day? It's movie magic. It's movie magic. We'll just go ahead and edit in the darkness and post. Shit, I don't have an editor.
Thing I will mention, if you're using a knockoff mount, so one of the repros of the actual mount, so the G24, G22, whatever mount you're using, you absolutely need to have some redundancies built into your helmet to make sure that if it breaks or if it fails, because it's not the name brand, you don't lose your helmet. Something you can do is having these retention lanyards already utilized. When I was using a knockoff, I also had a T-Rex arms lanyard that would attach from the helmet and then attach over to the nods as well to make sure that if it did fail, I'd be good to go. If you want something a little less invasive, Wilcox also makes these lanyards, and it's pretty much just like a key holder, and it attaches to the night vision. When it's stored, it retracts, and when they're down, it extends. And this is a great piece of kit for a very, very low profile and doesn't add really any weight to your helmets. But if you're going to be using a knockoff, make sure you don't lose your investment. Use your brain a little bit. That's going to be the cost of saving so much money.
Dead miss.
All right. Finally, some night vision tips for some stability on your helmet for specifically your nods. These things were truly a game changer, and I don't use that term willy-nilly, but it was a game changer for me for the amount of comfort that I had and just the stability that I had on my eyes. The first thing was, and I learned this from a Grand Thumb video, was a Ranger band or two wrapped underneath the nods and then over the night vision mount. This removes the play between the dovetail mount from your night vision and the actual mounting interface of the G24 or the G22 or whatever mount system you're using. This removed a lot of that play, and so it just wasn't going up and down like this. I didn't want to shim it or tape it or anything like that anywhere on these mounts, because if I needed to do like small micro adjustments, if it's taped or shimmed, it's a lot harder to do that, especially in the night when you put it on and you realize it doesn't fit the same and you got to adjust it a little bit. If it's taped up and shimmed, it wouldn't work as well. So I didn't want to do that. So this is what really stood out to me. The next was just utilizing these bungee retention lanyards. Okay, so these were cool because this removes the play between like moving laterally from your face. So it just pulls it nice and tight to the helmet so it isn't rocking back and forth like it does on the mount sometimes. After I did those two things, extremely cheap, the night vision fit so well, I felt like I was using a completely different unit. The micro movements you might not think are that big of a deal, but when you're under them and you only have that 40-degree field of view, it's going to start adding up very quickly, and it's just going to frustrate you, especially if you have to like move them a little bit. You're going downhill, so now they slop a little bit forward, but when you have them locked up like this, they truly do not move. And this made the difference for me. Also, with all that weight moving, it's even if it's just those micro movements, it's going to pull on your helmet a little bit more. It's going to strain your neck more. And really, you want to have as much comfort as possible. And for a couple dollars, absolutely worth it. Well, guys, I hope this was helpful. I realize I don't have the perfect setup, but I have tried a couple different things, especially some areas to save a little bit of money. And I feel like I learned some lessons, and I also found some things that worked really, really well. So please, if you have any questions, let me know. If not, I'll see you in the next one.
Once you start seeing yourself on camera, you realize what an abomination your parents created. Read number 263 to have a sling. Why'd he pull his mag out before switching to his pistol? I don't know. Fuck, I want some Ovaltine. This would be way easier if I had somebody holding the camera for me. Will you hold the camera for me? It's raining brass. All the FUDs are coming. I'm out of brass. Some comment about big iron. What do you mean I can't only shoot B-roll? Oh, I have to do actual content? Oh. Ooh, your neck strap isn't done up. First off, it's a chin strap. Second off, it looks cooler when it's off. All right, I'll see you next time.